And some people go, well, do you think you're a mystic? Do you think you're creating those opportunities? And the reality is I do not think that I'm creating the opportunities. I think they always existed. I just may not have been in tune to them enough to say, oh, there's an opportunity to reach my income goal.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Regan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in.
Hey everybody, Dr. Chad Johnson.
And Regan Robertson here. We are just blown away by the results of last week's Best Dental Podcast Awards by dentalpodcast.org.
Because of your vote.
And thank you.
Everyday Practices came in first place for Best Dental Podcast. PDA's other two podcasts, Dr. Bruce Baird's Productive Dentist and Victoria Peterson's Investment Grade Practices, also came in the top 5.
Wow. Now, we know that dentistry can be a lonely business.
And it's our goal to bring you interviews and content that will help you as you grow, not only in dentistry, but in life.
It is our mission to bring you stories from dentists and dental professionals who have faced the very challenges that you face.
That's right. Thank you again for voting Everyday Practices as your #1 dental podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Everyday Practices. I am your host, Regan Robertson, joined by my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson. How are you doing today, Chad?
Hey, what's up, Regan? I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. You know, the month is January, and so many people are focused on New Year's resolutions, and that means goal setting.
Right.
So that's why we have invited a very special guest today. She has been a contributor on our podcast before. She is the Director of Client Success with Productive Dentist Academy, Deni Hall. Deni, welcome to our podcast.
Hi, Deni.
Oh my gosh, hello. Thank you so much for having me back on the show.
Yay.
Absolutely. Our listeners are in for a treat today. We love to give you all tips, ways to make your life easier. And if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you've read a book on goal setting or at least a blog post or seen a YouTube video. There's lots of different methodologies to plan and goal set to succeed. But Deni, I like what we were talking about before the show, and you really sort of dived into the brain psychology of what it means to align yourself in a way to achieve your goals quicker than before. So I am really interested to jump in. I know Chad and I talk about goals a lot, and we have different methodologies as well that we've used over the years. So we're open to learning something new also.
Well, I am so glad to be here. I know a lot of people understand how to write goals. They've learned how to do SMART goals, or if you are a fan of the 4 disciplines of execution, you know, X to Y by when. There's a lot of formulas for how to write goals. But I thought maybe today, spending a little bit of time talking about why is it important? Not how to do it, but why is it important? And if that's all right with you guys, I'd like to kind of explore that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, Chad, don't you? I mean, we focus a lot on the how, a lot on the execution element.
Of course. Yeah. How is important, but it's also good to hit at it from a different angle.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever asked myself why too much. I mean, other than like big career goals, maybe I don't really ask much about the why. So tell us, Deni, why is the why important?
Well, our brains work in a very funny way most of the time. They are very complicated, very complicated and simple at the same time once you understand how they work. The function of parts of your brain are really very simple. They're there to keep you alive. And so when you look out across the horizon, your brain is looking for ways to prove you right. Because if you're wrong, what happens? If I make the wrong decision, what might happen?
Well, you might hurt yourself, or you might get doubt. You might have self-doubt, lower your confidence.
Well, interestingly, what you're saying is confirmation bias just naturally occurs. And it can be okay.
It can be, but our main function of our brain is really, if we think about some of the parts of our brain, our hypothalamus, our pineal gland, their function is to keep us alive on a daily basis. So they look across all of the horizon of all of the experience that you've had, and they start trying to, if you could think of it like a scale of 1 to 100, how dangerous is this going to be if I do this? Have I done it before? Was it successful? Did I get hurt? It's all those things. Did you reach up on the stove and touch it once and it was hot, so you never did that again? Those are the parts of your brain that are working either against you or for you when you're writing goals. So when I think about, the stages of goal writing, if I think about it, that's better than doing nothing. If I write it down, that's better than just thinking about it. If I write it down and I think about it on a daily basis and I do something specific to make it come alive for me, either it's a picture, a sound. A lot of my goals are to music. I'm very much into music. So while I'm reading my goals, I'm oftentimes listening to music because it adds an element of my senses to that. Anytime I can add emotion to my goals, it's going to increase the amount, the less time that it's going to take me to achieve those. And why that happens is a very interesting thing in our brain. And it goes back to what I just talked about, because our brain wants to be right. So because it knows if it isn't right, I might die. So it is constantly surveying my surroundings and the things that are going on around me to find out whether or not I'm going to be right about something. So if I write down my goals and I write them in present tense, so let's say I have an income goal of $200,000 a year, and I write that goal down as if I've already done it. Mm-hmm. My brain doesn't really know the difference between what is real and what I've told it is real. So I write the goal down as, I am currently earning $200,000 a year. That might be high or low for anybody who's listening to this podcast, but that's not the point. The point is, I've said I am currently earning $200,000 a year. Now I've told my brain that I'm going to do that. And what my brain says is, okay, I'm going to survey the horizon for opportunities for her to make $200,000 a year because I want her to be right. And some people go, well, do you think you're a mystic? Do you think you're creating those opportunities? And the reality is I do not think that I'm creating the opportunities. I think they always existed. I just may not have been in tune to them enough to say, oh, there's an opportunity to reach my income goal.
Deni, Jordan Belfort wrote Wolf of Wall Street, and I've talked about the book before. It's a few years old, but interestingly, when you talk about enriching your senses, Jordan uses smell because he thinks that's the most primal of senses enrichment. And so when you talk about playing music, like a lot of branding, jingles and stuff like that has been based off of that. But at the same time, he's just like, no, when he makes a sale, he smells a certain flavor that he likes, and he even talks about where you can get it from. And so what he does is then when he goes into a sale, he smells it beforehand after training it enough. So that way he can almost, I don't know if the word is literally, but as close as you get, he can literally smell victory in the sale before he's gone in, and it compounds building on that success because he's told his brain, this is going to be a successful sale.
I love that you said that because I agree with smell. If I'm really working on my goals, I have a favorite candle that is going in the background. I have music in the background because some people probably think, those things are silly, but the reality is the more senses I can bring into it and the more emotion I can place on it. If I can visualize in my head what it would feel like to earn $200,000 this year, and I can close my eyes and go, what will that feel like? What will that be like? What will I do with that money? And really convince my mind that it is real, the more likely my mind is going to be looking for opportunity for me to increase that. And I think when you think about that, it may not be your regular job. I mean, it may not be. I'm not a dentist, and I know my salary is not $200,000 a year. But I do see opportunities. People will call me for opportunities of things like, could you, for instance, I have a girlfriend that does training and development, and oftentimes she'll call me and she'll go, hey, can you facilitate this class for X client? And it's Sunday from 9 to 2. I'm like, sure, I'm not working during that time. Let's do that. Well, there's $1,200. So I think we often, limit ourselves to what we tell ourselves. And instead, if we would tell ourselves a different story, we would reach our goals much quicker.
Yeah, I was just telling my team last week that if we fail, how did I word it? Like if we have no goal, that is worse if we stumble across success occasionally, as opposed to setting a goal and maybe even only hitting it 95% the way there, but at least we defined it from the beginning, what our success rate was. So if I say we need to make this much per month, I'm starting to define to everyone kind of what we're looking for. Just even, I don't know if the word is subconsciously, but that subconsciously we're establishing what our values are for what we're going to waste our time doing versus what we find valuable. So if someone says, hey, will you, speak at this thing from 9 to 2 on Sunday, but I'm like, you know what? I already have something else going on and I'm making triple the amount. It's just like, well, then why would I say yes to that? Or, if there's a lot of small value things that aren't necessarily even vital for patient health, as a more pertinent example of the dentistry, like if we're just doing sealants all day and then you say, well, you've got this big goal. Why are we necessarily trying to push people over to get sealants done when they might not even need them, and that's not even hitting your financial goals? So it starts setting up the parameters. What are we looking for to make that goal? And even if we don't hit that goal, because we were talking about the end of month, January, end of month, how did we do? Mm-hmm. And I was just like, guys, we actually hit our goal by more than $600 over our goal. I was shocked because I thought we were going to be about 15,000 under. But wow. I said, at least if we were 15,000 under, it's still along the way, as opposed to if we didn't set the goal at all. Deni, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I think 100% you're correct. I believe if you set that goal and you talk about it frequently, like if you're talking about it every day in your huddle and you're talking about the progress you're making towards that, now you have 10 or 12 or 20 people that are actually thinking the same thing. And now everyone is seeing opportunities to make that happen. And you increase the chances by, I would say, at least 75% to make that goal. Versus if you're not talking about it at your huddle and it's not posted somewhere and people aren't motivated, either financially or some sort of a reward to get there, you're like I think you just said, you're taking chances. You might hit it. It's possible you might hit it, and that would be wonderful. But when you do these things, you actually increase the chances that you're going to hit that goal significantly.
So Deni, what you're describing, like Chad, you were saying with the smell, like locking it in with the smell, or Deni locking it in with music. I think of that as anchoring. And I'm probably using that term because I'm doing clicker training with my dog right now. He's 4 months old. And it amazes me how anytime he does a behavior that you want to reward, you click and treat immediately, right? So that it locks it in over time. And I am blown away by how fast, like 1 10-minute session, 10 minutes, and that dog knows how to sit. Another 10 minutes and he knows how to do down. Another 10 minutes and he knows how to shake. So in less than an hour, that dog is pretty much anchored into understanding what gestures to make to get him to do the actions that you want him to take. So I am a huge believer in anchoring, but I have never really thought about that in equation to goals, or like you were saying, Chad, in equation to like closing a sale, like setting yourself up so that your neuro pathways already are down the highway of this is a victory, this is a win. Because that's exactly what you're saying is neurologically, the little pathways in there, it's going to a win.
Deni, thanks again for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
You bet. Thanks, Regan. See you.
See you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you, and we'd love your help. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.